4. More than 90 years of life and almost as many of labor, nearly 5 years of overwhelming fame, and almost as many of unspeakable suffering. Must not a man be built of heart of oak, as they say in Aveyron, to survive so many trials? Like the oaks of his native parts, the patriarch of Sérignan continued to brave the assaults of time, and even when he began to feel that his life was declining, it seemed as though it was only withdrawing itself from its long and manifold ramifications in the external world to take refuge, as in an inexpugnable asylum, in the depths and roots of his being. He was one of those of whom people say with us that they cannot die. Fabre's work is immortal, that is agreed, but the artisan. Let us resume our comparison. Like the oak that loses its boughs, one after the other, he saw falling one by one the several factors of his life. His life was the harmas, that paradise of insects, that laboratory after his own heart, where he could make his observations under the blue sky, to the song of the cicadee, amid the thyme, lavender, and rosemary. Now he was seen there no longer. Hardly were the traces of his footsteps yet visible through the untrimmed boughs that crossed the paths and the grass that was invading them. His life, it was his study, his museum of natural history, his laboratory, where, with closed doors face to face with nature, he repeated, in order to perfect them, to consign them to writing, his open-air researches, his observations of the today or yesterday. Now he no longer sets foot in it, and now one saw, with what respect and tenderness, only the marks left by his footsteps upon the tiled floor, as he came and went about the big observation table, which occupies all the middle of the room, in pursuit of the solution of the problems propounded by his insects. And we have a feeling that we are looking upon, and handling, relics, when on this table we still see the pocket lenses, the microscopes and modest apparatus which has served for his experiments. And we have the same feeling before the collections in the glass-topped cases of polished pine which stand against the whitewashed walls, and before the 120 volumes of the magnificent herbarium which stand in a row beneath them, and before the innumerable portfolios of mycological plates, in which vivid color is blended so well with delicacy of drawing, and before the registers and stacks of notes in fine, clear handwriting, without erasures, which promised a fresh series of souvenirs. Must they be left thus abandoned previous to their being dispersed or falling into other hands, all these precious fragments of an incomparable life, and these venerable premises, consecrated by such rare memories? The great naturalist's disciples could not resign themselves to the thought, and by a touching inspiration of filial piety they have found the means to secure these treasures, as by a love stronger than death, against this harrowing dispersal. To keep the dead in their last dwelling, or attract them thither, the ancient Egyptians used to place there the image of their earthly dwelling, offering them at least a reduced facsimile of their life's environment, of the objects and premises which had in some sort made part of their life and their soul. Fabre's friends sought to do still better. In order to preserve it in its integrity, they determined to acquire the harmas, with its plantations, its collections, and all its dependencies, and in order to make their homage as complete as possible they made, with this object, an appeal for international subscriptions, which were unhappily interrupted by the war. "This is the museum which we wish to dedicate to him," said the chief promoter of this pious undertaking, "so that in after years, when the good sage who knew the language of the innumerable little creatures of the countryside shall rest beneath the cypresses of his harmas, at the foot of the laurustinus bushes, amidst the thyme and the sage that the bees will still rifle, all those whom he has taught, all those whom he has charmed, may feel that something of his soul still wanders in his garden and animates his house." However, the soul of the good sage, which they thus sought to capture and hold here on earth, in short, to imprison in his work and its environment, made its escape and took flight toward loftier regions and wider horizons. To see him in the twilight of the dining room where he silently finished his life, majestically leaning back in his armchair, with his best shirt and old-fashioned necktie, his eyes still bright in his emaciated face, his lips fine and still mobile, but thin with age and at moments trembling with emotion or moved by a sudden inspiration. To see him thus, would you not say that he was still observing? Yes, but his observations are now of an invisible world, a world even richer in mysteries and revelations than the world below, so patiently explored for more than 50 years. One day, when two professors of the Grand Séminaire de Saint-Paul-Ouachetox had come to see him, as the time drew near to bid them goodbye, the old man held out his hands and tucked them under their arms, and not without difficulty, rose from his armchair, and arm in arm with them advanced, tile by tile, to the threshold of the house, whither he had determined to accompany them. Suddenly, pressing their arms more closely and alluding to their cassocks and their vocation, he said, energetically, "You have chosen the better part," and holding them back for a last word, he added, "Life is a horrible phantasmagoria, but it leads us to a better future." This future the naturalist liked to conceive in accordance with the images familiar to his mind, as being a more complete understanding of the great book of which he had deciphered only a few words, as a more perfect communion with the offices of nature, in the incense of the perfumes that are softly exhaled by the carven flowers from their golden censers, amid the delightful symphonies in which are mingled the voices of crickets and cicadae, chaffinches and siskins, skylarks and goldfinches. Those tiny choristers, all singing and fluttering, trilling their motets to the glory of him who gave them voice and wings on the 5th day of Genesis. This last passage might be underlined, for now more than ever, in our thoughts of this scientist, of whom it has been said that, with a taste for nature, he has given us an appreciation of God. The work cannot be divorced from the artisan without the grossest inconsistency. One who had the good fortune to become intimate with Fabre during the last days of his life tells how eagerly the naturalist used to accept the wild flowers which he brought in from his walks, how tenderly he would caress them with his frail fingers and brilliant eyes. Both looks and gestures expressed an infinite admiration for the pure and simple work of nature as God has ordained it. And when one evening, says his friend, I remarked that these little miracles clearly proved the existence of a divine artificer. For me, I do not believe in God, declared the scientist, repeating for the last time his famous and paradoxical profession of faith. I do not believe in God, because I see him in all things and everywhere. Another day he expressed his firm and profound conviction to the same friend in a slightly different form. God is light, he said dreamily, and you always see him shining. No, he said suddenly, God does not shine, he obtrudes himself. The man who thus bows before God has truly attained, on the heights of human knowledge, what we may call with him the threshold of eternal life. To him, God sends his angels to open the gates, that he may enter by the straight paths of the gospel and the church. After the death of Mme. Fabre in 1912, a nursing sister of the congregation of Saint-Roch de Viviers was installed at the Harmas. Her name was Sister Adrienne. The old man appreciated her services so greatly that he was overcome with dejection by the very thought that she might be recalled by her superiors, according to the rule of her order, after the lapse of a certain period of time. And he would gratefully press her hand when the good sister sought to relieve his anxiety and inspire him with the hope that she would be allowed to remain in his service till the end of his days. He found her simplicity, her delicacy, her good nature, and her devotion so delightful that he could not refrain from telling her so plainly in the direct, forcible manner familiar to him, "You are invaluable, sister. You are admirable. I love religion as you practice it." He has often told me, she writes, that when he could not sleep at night, he used to pray, to think of God, and address to him a prayer which he would himself compose. In the spring of 1914, the aged naturalist, who was more than 90 years of age, felt that his strength was failing more perceptibly, so that the doctors diagnosed a fatal outcome in the near future. On receiving the news of this alarming condition, Monseigneur the Archbishop of Aveyron hastened to the Harmas. The invalid expressed his delight and gratitude for the visit. Their relations were so cordial that the prelate decided to continue them by a series of admirable letters which have fortunately been published. In these letters, with great delicacy, Monseigneur Laddie avoided all that might run contrary to the naturalist's opinions, and very gently endeavored to induce him to die as a Christian. To draw him more surely to the light that shines from the cross and the grace which raises the soul above itself, he asks him to recite every evening, in unison with him, the beautiful prayer of the dying Savior, which he calls the prayer of the heights, the height of Golgotha, the height of life, in Manus tuus Domine commendo spiritum meum. Into thy hands, O Lord, I commend my spirit. However, Fabre was not yet at the end of his Calvary. Contrary to the expectation of the doctors, a return of strength enabled him to live to see another spring, and it needed nothing less than the terrible shocks of the tempest unloosed upon Europe to overcome the powers of resistance that had braved so many storms. During the summer of 1915, his weakness grew more marked, so that there was no hope of many more days of life. The curé of Sérignan having been mobilized, the absence of the priest at this time was a cause of great anxiety to Sister Adrienne, always on the watch for the soul ready to escape her. Providence happily came to her assistance, and a Breton priest, who had come to the south to recover his health and had for some time been acquainted with the master, was admitted to terms of intimacy. After some hesitation, he decided to speak to the scientist of the sacrament of penitence. With that beautiful simplicity of his, and to the astonishment of the priest, Fabre, who seemed expecting the invitation, replied, "Whenever you will." Purified by absolution, fortified by the extreme unction, received in full consciousness into the church, Fabre displayed a wonderful serenity. Pressing the hand of the priest who was officiating, he listened to the recommendation of the soul. And when he heard the sacred words that were familiar to him, in Manus tuus, Domine, his lips moved as though to pronounce the Amen of supreme acceptance, while his gaze, which was beginning to grow dim, settled upon the sister's crucifix. It was the 11th October 1915, at 6 o'clock of the evening, that the great scientist so gently surrendered his soul to God. The obsequies, celebrated on the 16th October, were simple and affecting, as he would have liked them to be. For a few moments before leaving the church, the old naturalist's fine face was again exposed. It reflected an immense serenity. On his peaceful features one divined the satisfaction of the man who is departing with his work accomplished. In his parchment-like hands he clasped a wooden crucifix with ivory tips. Beside his head was a wreath of laurestinus. Beside one arm was his great black felt hat. The service was celebrated by the archpriest of Orange in the little church, and then the harsh, rocky soil received the body of him who had so often stooped over it. This life of J. H. Fabre told by himself would not be complete if we did not give here the text of the epitaph which he himself had composed beforehand. It is magnificent. It gives one the impression of an unfurling of wings. Quos Pirius pudemus permissi sunt, minim finis, sed limen vidi excelsiorus. Fabre was preceded to the tomb by several months by Mistral, who was 7 years his junior. Very different in an equal fame, these two men are inseparable. Mistral and Fabre both represented Provence. One was born there and never left it, and to some extent created it. The other adopted and was adopted by it, and, like his illustrious compatriot, covered it with glory. But while Fabre represented Provence, which saw the unfolding of his rich and vital nature, and while it lavished upon him all the beauty of its sky, all the brilliance of its Latin soul, all the savor of its musical and picturesque language, and all the entomological wealth of its sunny hills, he none the less represents the Rouergue, whence he derived his innate qualities and his earliest habits, his love of nature and the insects, his thirst for God and the beyond, his indefatigable love of work. His tenacious enthusiasm for study, his irresistible craving for solitude, the strange, powerful, striking, and picturesque grace of his language, his almost rustic simplicity, his blunt frankness, his proud timidity, his no less proud independence, and with all these the ingenuous and unusual sensitiveness and sincere modesty of his character. The end. Notes. The Higher Clerical Seminary, B.M. The great entomologist's jubilee was celebrated on the April 3, 1910. Author's note. Paris, de Lagrave. The Souvenirs, translated by Alexander Teixeira de Mattos, are in course of publication by Messrs. Hodder and Stoughton in England and Messrs. Dodd, Mead & Co. in the United States. The arrangement of the essays has been altered in the English series. See also The Life and Love of the Insect, translated by Alexander Teixeira de Mattos, A. and C. Black, Social Life in the Insect World, translated by Bernard Mile T. Fisher Unwin, and Wonders of Instinct, translated by Alexander Teixeira de Mattos and Bernard Mile T. Fisher Unwin, B. M. It must in justice be admitted that Fabre had certain precursors, among whom mention must be made of the famous Réaumur and Léon Dufour, a physician who lived in the lands, died 1865, and who was the occasion and the subject of his first entomological publication. This does not alter the fact that his great work is not only absolutely original, but an achievement sui generis which cannot be compared with the mere sketches of his predecessors. Souvenirs Series Roman 6, p. 65, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 6, My Schooling. This is Fabre's verdict upon another naturalist, Maquintandon. Souvenirs Roman 6, pp. 7697, The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chap Roman 9, Dung Beetles of the Pampas. M. E. Perrier is a member of the Institut de France. Souvenirs Roman 6, pp. 7697, The Glowworm, Chapter Roman 9. M. Albert Gaudry is a sometime professor of paleontology in the Museum of Natural History, who, by virtue of his paleontological discoveries and works, has acquired a great authority in the scientific world. His Enchaînements du monde animal dans les temps géologiques is especially valued and often cited. Gaudry, who is a good Catholic as well as a scientist of the first rank, very definitely accepts the evolution of species. But for him, as for Fabre, the activity of the animal kingdom, like that of the world in general, is inconceivable apart from a sovereign mind which has foreseen all things and provided for all things. Those journals which claim him as a native of Sérignan are therefore mistaken. At Sérignan Vaucluse, his native countryside, the peasants familiarly call him Moussou Fabre, Univers, March 3, 1910. In the reminiscences of his childhood, which are intermingled with his entomological memoirs, Fabre does not mention a single proper name, whether of person or place, only the vague expression, the table land of the Rouergue, which he once incidentally employs, might give an attentive reader a hint as to the place of his origin. Souvenirs Roman 6, p. 38, The Life of the Fly, Chapter V, Heredity. These paternal grandparents, of whom our hero has retained so vivid a recollection, bore the names of Jean-Pierre Fabre and Elizabeth Paugade. Patient searching of the archives, assisted, fortunately, by the goodwill of M. Toscan, registrar to the Justice of the Peace for Vezins, has enabled us to reproduce their marriage contract, which is full of information hitherto unpublished and curious details of domestic life which will not fail to interest the reader. In the year 1791, and on the 15th day of the month of February, in the locality of Sagar, province of Aveyron, in the presence of me, Raymond Roos, man of law and notary royal, have been devised and concluded the following articles of marriage between Pierre Jean Fabre, legitimate son of Pierre Fabre, landowner and farmer, and Anne Fages, husband and wife of the village of Malavel, on the one part, and Elizabeth Paugade, legitimate daughter of Anton Paugade, landowner and Francois Azimer, husband and wife of the village of Mont, parish of Notre Dame d'Arcs, on the other part, the said parties acting, namely, the said future husband with the knowledge and consent of his father and mother here present, and the said future wife, she being absent, but the said Paugade for her, being here present stipulating and accepting, have in the first place promised that the said marriage shall be solemnized before the church at the first demand of one of the parties, under penalty of all expenses, damages, and interests. In the second place, the said Fabre and Fages, husband and wife, favoring and contemplating the present marriage, have given and are giving by donation, declared between living persons, to the aforesaid their son, the future husband, all and each of their possessions, movable and immovable, present and future, under the clauses, conditions, and reserves hereafter following. Firstly, to be fed at the same table of the same victuals as the said donor. Secondly, and in case of incompatibility, they reserve to themselves the same income as Jean Fabre and Francois Fabre, father and mother of the donor, reserved to themselves in the marriage contract of the said Fabre received by M. Dufeu, notary. Thirdly, to settle upon their other children a portion such as by law shall pertain to them out of their possessions in money when they accept a settlement. And in case Francois and Anne Fabre should not desire so to do, they shall enjoy the annual pension of 3 setters each of rye, 2 quarters each of oats, 5 pounds each of butter, and 5 pounds each of cheese, the use of their usual bed and of their spinning wheel, the use of their clothes press, and the small articles of furniture necessary according to their condition. The said Fages, the mother, reserves to herself the sum of 30 francs to be paid once at her will to employ and dispose as she shall see fit. In the third place, the said Paujade, the father, favoring and contemplating the present marriage, has given and constituted as the dowry of his daughter, the future wife, to take the place of any right to a portion which she might claim against his goods and those of the mother aforesaid. A clothes press with apparel valued at 100 livres. A heifer and a cow valued the two at 80 francs, 2 sheep, and the sum of 1,500 livres. The said sum being made up of 150 livres of the maternal parents, and the rest of the paternal parents' money. Devised and rehearsed in the presence of the seer Joseph Dagian, burgher of Moulin-Savy, and the seer André Burles, practitioner of Sagar, signed by the aforesaid Fabre, father and son, and the aforesaid Paujade, father, and not the aforesaid Fages, who, being requested to sign, has stated that she is not able to do so. Forwarded by us, the notary undersigned, holder of the draft at Sagar, the 12th April 1807. Ruse Notary. This account of the naturalist's childhood is drawn principally from the Souvenirs VI, 3245. See the Life of the Fly, Chap. V. Heredity. Souvenirs VI, pp. 4668, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VI, My Schooling. Souvenirs IV, pp. 5060, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VI, My Schooling. The Château de Saint Léons standing just outside and above the village of Saint Léons, where the author was born in 1823. Cf. The Life of the Fly, Chaps, Romans VI and Romans VII. A. T. de M. The brother whom Fabre here associates with the memories of his childhood has also proved a credit to his name and his vocation. M. Frédéric Fabre is today director of the Crillon Canal and assistant justice for the southern canton of Aveyron. Souvenirs VIII, pp. 126-127, Bramblebees, Chapter XIII, The Halicti. The War of 1830 with Algiers, A. T. de M. Souvenirs, pp. 260-270, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VII, The Pond. The wheatear, one of the Saxicali, is known also as the whitetail, the meaning of both forms being the same, whitetear being a corruptive of the Anglo-Saxon name. Both correspond with the Provencal Culblanc. The stonechat is a member of the same genus. B.M. Souvenirs, pp. 292-300, The Life of the Fly, Chapter XVII, Recollections of Childhood. Souvenirs VIII, pp. 125-129, Bramblebees, Chapter XIII, The Halicti, The Portress. Souvenirs VI, p. 60, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VI, My Schooling. Souvenirs VII, pp. 29-33, The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapter XV, Suicide or Hypnosis. Souvenirs VI, p. 61, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VI, My Schooling. Souvenirs II, pp. 41-44-46, Hunting Wasps, Chapter XX, A Modern Theory of Instinct. Souvenirs VI, p. 61, The Life of the Fly, Chapter VI, My Schooling. Fabre, Poet of Science, by G. V. Legros, translated by Bernard Mile T. Fisher Unwin, p. 24. Souvenirs X, pp. 323-331, The Life of the Fly, Chapter XIX, A Memorable Lesson. Souvenirs X, 332-336, The Life of the Fly, Chapter XIX, A Memorable Lesson. Chalicodoma, meaning a house of pebbles, concrete or mortar, would be a most satisfactory title, were it not that it has an odd sound to anyone unfamiliar with Greek. The name is given to bees who build their cells with materials similar to those which we employ for our own dwellings. The work of these insects is masonry, only it is turned out by a rustic mason more used to hard clay than to hewn stone. Réaumur, who knew nothing of scientific classification, a fact which makes many of his papers very difficult to understand, named the worker after her work, and called our builders in dried clay mason bees, which describes them exactly. Souvenirs I, pp. 278-280, The Mason Bees, Chap I, The Mason Bee. Horace, Ars Poetica, 412. Souvenirs IX, pp. 164-170, The Life of the Fly, Chapter XII, Mathematical Memories, The Binomial Theorem. Souvenirs IX, pp. 172-183 passim, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 12, Mathematical Memories, the Binomial Theorem. Souvenirs Roman 9, p. 184 passim, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 12, Mathematical Memories, the Binomial Theorem. The Weekly Half-Holiday in the French Schools, A. T. de M. The Hunting Wasps, Chapters A, An Ascent of Mont Ventoux. Souvenirs Roman 3, pp. 191-193, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 4, Larval Dimorphism. M. Fabre was never officially a schoolmaster, but he was trained as one and was a pupil at the Normal College at Rodez. M. Purbosque is a schoolmaster at La Valedian, Tarnat-Garonne. He has published through Private of Toulouse, Logot Occitan, Cansis del Got Occitan, Contes Populaires Gascons, Guilhem de Tolosa, Remembrança, Elarada, etc., and has repeatedly been crowned by the Académie des Jeux Floraux of Toulouse. M. Besson is also a laureate of the Académie des Jeux Floraux and is at present canon of Rodez. He has published through Care of Rodez, D'Albres à la Townbo, Baguette Lidos, Bisucariados, Counts de la Tata Manu, Counts de l'Oncle Janet, etc. This last volume is dedicated. Amon Amic Antony Purbosque. Esprit Requien, 1780-1851, a French naturalist and collector, director of the Museum and Botanical Gardens at Aveyron, and author of several works on botany and conchology. A. T. de M. Horace Benedict Alfred Macquintandon, 1800-463, a distinguished naturalist, for 20 years director of the Botanical Gardens at Toulouse. He was commissioned by the French government in 1850 to compile a flora of Corsica and is the author of several important works on botany and zoology. A. T. de M. A mountain 30 feet high, about 25 miles from Ajaccio. A. T. de M. Souvenirs Roman 6, pp. 63-66, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 6, My Schooling. Souvenirs I, pp. 178-180, The Life of the Spider, Chapter Roman 2, The Black-Bellied Tarantula. Souvenirs I, pp. 221-240-241, The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman 14, The Bembex. Souvenirs Roman 4, 3-5. However, the audacious insect had other surprises in store for him. His notes speak of nests found more or less by chance near the still of a distillery, on the top of a steam engine in a silk mill, on the walls and furniture of a farmhouse kitchen, and even in the interior of a gourd in which the farmer kept his shot on the chimney-piece. In a word, wherever there was warmth and not too much light. Souvenirs Roman 4, p. 812. Souvenirs I, p. 122, The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman 7, Advanced Theories. Souvenirs I, p. 136, The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman 8, The Languedocian Sphex. Souvenirs I, pp. 50-52, Roman 2, p. 262 et sec. Souvenirs Roman 2, pp. 262-303 Roman 3, 194-195, The Glowworm, Chapter Roman 2, The Citaris, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 4, Larval Dimorphism. Horace Ars Poetica, 409 et sec. Souvenirs Roman 3, p. 193. Ibid I, p. 182, The Hunting Wasps, Chapters I, An Ascent of Mont Ventoux. Souvenirs I, pp. 180-3, The Hunting Wasps, Chapters I, An Ascent of Mont Ventoux. Souvenirs I, p. 180. Th. Delacour and Bernard Vallot of the Jardin des Plantes. Souvenirs I, pp. 181-186, The Hunting Wasps, Chap. I, An Ascent of Mont Ventoux. Souvenirs I, pp. 192-193. Souvenirs Roman 6, p. 166, I, p. 187. Léon Duffer, 1780-1865, was an army surgeon who in 1823 went through the Spanish campaign, and on returning to France settled in his native town, Saint-Sever, where he devoted himself chiefly to entomology. Souvenirs I, pp. 39-41, The Hunting Wasps, Chap. I, The Buprestes Hunting Cerceris. Fabre, Poet of Science, p. 58. Souvenirs I, pp. 41-44. The Hunting Wasps, Chapter I, The Buprestes Hunting Cerceris. Souvenirs IX, pp. 326-328. Ducklocks Pasteur, Histoire d'un Esprit, pp. 180-293. Souvenirs IX, p. 330. Souvenirs IX, pp. 330-331. Souvenirs I, p. 40-73, Roman II, pp. 78-83, 181, 214, 234, 235, 283, v. pp. 76, 188, 229, etc. Everybody knows today that heat kills, or so far enfeebles as to render inoffensive, the microbes that infect liquids and make it impossible to preserve them. This again is one of Pasteur's happy discoveries, as is conveyed by the very verb to pasteurize, which means to protect against microbes by the action of heat. We pasteurize milk, beer, wine, etc. The ancients used to practice the heating of wines. In the house of St. John and St. Paul, discovered in Rome in 1887, beneath the church dedicated to the two martyrs, who were both officers of the Emperor Constantine, the excavators found beside the cellar and the amphorae of wine, the little room with a fireplace known as the furnarium, which was used for heating wine and drying fruit. The heating of wines was practiced also at Mies, near Set, before Pasteur's discovery. But the ancient method of heating had nothing in common with pasteurization. The merchants of Hérault, like the ancients, used to heat wine in order to modify its flavor, to mature it more quickly. Pasteur, on the other hand, heats it to keep it unchanged. To mature wine, it is heated slowly in contact with the air. To preserve it, the wine must be rapidly heated to 122 degrees F in a vacuum. The object and the method are altogether different. Souvenirs IX, pp. 329-30. Saint Roch, 1295, 1327, is represented in his statues with the dog that saved his life, by discovering him in the solitude where, after curing the plague-stricken Italians, he hid himself lest he should communicate the pestilence to others. A. T. de M. The old, partly demolished bridge at Aveyron, which figures in the well-known French catch. Sur le pont d'Avignon tout le monde y danse en ronde. A. T. de M. Souvenirs X pp. 343 et sec. The Life of the Fly, Chap Roman 20. Industrial Chemistry. M. François Fabre, ex-professor in the Lycée of Toulon, still lives in the neighborhood of the city, in the Villa des Trônes. Journal d'Aveyron, 8 November 1908. Souvenirs X pp. 338-43, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 20, Industrial Chemistry. Cf. Supra, p. 135. Souvenirs X p. 353, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 20, Industrial Chemistry. Revue Scientifique, May 7, 1910, speech by M. Edmond Perrier. Jean-Victor Duray, 1811-1894, author of a number of historical works, including a well-known Histoire des Romains and Minister of Public Instruction under Napoleon Roman III. From 1863 to 1869. Cf. The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman 20. A. T. de M. Souvenirs Roman II, pp. 125-126, The Mason Bees, Chapter V, The Story of My Cats. Horace Ode XXX, BK, Roman III. Souvenirs Roman II, pp. 200-203, The Life of the Spider, Chapter I, The Black-Bellied Tarantula. Souvenirs Roman II, p1. The Halicti produce 2 generations each year. 1, in the spring, is the issue of mothers who, fecundated in the autumn, have passed through the winter. The other, produced in the summer, is the fruit of parthenogenesis, that is, of procreation by the maternal virtualities alone. Of the concourse of the two sexes, only females are born. Parthenogenesis gives rise to both males and females. Souvenirs Roman 8, pp. 144-160. The Bramblebees, Chapter Roman 14, Parthenogenesis. It was only a later date, by combining a series of successive observations which were spread over a great length of years, that he was able to define exactly the various modes of generation employed by the Halicti, as described in the preceding note. Fabre, Poet of Science, G. V. Legros, pp. 108 115. The Country Round Sérignan in Provence, a T de M. Souvenirs Roman II, pp. 1-8, The Life of the Fly, Chapter I, The Harmas. Souvenirs Roman VII, pp. 270-273, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman VII, The Pond. Ibid, Roman VII, 260-270. Souvenirs Roman VIII, 278-280, 255-295. The Life of the Fly, Chapter V, The Green Bottles, The Mason Wasps, Chapter Roman IX. Insect Geometry, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman IX, The Gray Flesh Flies. Souvenirs Roman VIII, p. 228, The Life of the Fly, Chapter Roman IX, The Green Bottles. Mont Ventoux, an outlying summit of the Alps, 62-70 feet high. Cf. Insect Life, Chapter Roman XIII, a. T de M. Fabre lived the first years of his life, cf. Chapter I, on the mountains of Lavais, which are almost of the birth and bifurcation of the two ranges of the Levezin and the Palinger. In the language of his country, Lavais, pronounced lo baiso, means the hazel bush. An alien zoology, too, is represented in the osier beds of the Aigues, whose peace is never disturbed save in freshets of exceptional duration. The wild spates of the Aigues bring into our countryside and strand in the osier thickets the largest of our snails, the glory of Burgundy Helix premacias. Souvenirs Roman VI, pp. 2637-42, The Life of the Fly, Chapter V, Heredity. A district of the province of Guyenne, having Rodez for its capital. The author's maternal grandfather, Salgues by name, was the huissier, or, as we should say, sheriff's officer of Saint Leon's. A.T. de M. The author's father kept a café at Piroulet and other small towns in the south of France. A.T. de M. Souvenirs Roman VI, pp. 2637-42, The Life of the Fly, Chapter V, Heredity. Fabre had a sort of natural horror of luxury. Souvenirs I, pp. 134-136, The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman VIII, The Languedocian Sphex. Souvenirs p. 319 Roman VIII, p. 1. Ibid, p. 294. Souvenirs Roman VI, p. 295. Souvenirs Roman II, pp. 80, 81, 90, 91, The Mason Wasps, Chapter Roman II, The Ordinary. Souvenirs I, p. 115, The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman VI, The Larva and the Nymph. The 14th of July, the anniversary of the fall of the Bastille, A.T. de M. Souvenirs Roman VI, pp. 196-203, 246-247, The Life of the Grasshopper, Chapter Roman XIV, The Green Grasshopper. Souvenirs Roman IX, pp. 94-97, 231, 299-310, The Life and Love of the Insect, Chaps, Roman XVII, Roman XVIII. Souvenirs Roman IX, pp. 300-301, The Life and Love of the Insect, Chapter Roman XVII. Souvenirs Roman IX, pp. 302-312, The Life and Love of the Insect, Chapter Roman XXII. Souvenirs Roman VI, pp. 377-378, The Life of the Caterpillar, Chapter V, The Moth. Souvenirs Roman III, p. 14. 26th March 1910. E. Perrier, Revue Hebdomadaire, October 22, 1910. E. Perrier Loxit. Souvenirs I, pp. 304-306, 320, Roman II, pp. 112, 130, 131, Roman III, p. 16, Roman IV, pp. 142, 167, 183, Roman VI, p. 15, Roman VIII, p. 159. Souvenirs Roman IV, pp. 167, 168, 182-183, The Mason Wasps, Chapter Roman VIII, The Nest-Building Ordinarius. Ibid, Roman VI, pp. 4, 118-119, 249, 383, Roman VIII, p. 295, x pp. 1586, 112, etc. Souvenirs I, p. 246, Roman VI, p. 249, Roman VIII, p. 3, x p. 11, etc. Ibid, Roman VII, p. 29, Roman 8, pp. 5 272, x pp. 111 254, etc. For Lucy, his granddaughter, aged 6, see Roman 2, p. 149. Souvenirs Roman 7, pp. 139-41, The Life of the Caterpillar, chapter Roman 11, The Great Peacock, also Social Life in the Insect World, chapter 14. Souvenirs X, p. 111. Souvenirs Roman 7, 360. Souvenirs V, pp. 43-44, The Sacred Beetle and Others, chapter Roman 4, The Sacred Beetle, the Pair. Souvenirs V, pp. 27-29, The Sacred Beetle and Others, chapter I, The Sacred Beetle. It is exceedingly curious that neither Fabre nor the silk growers knew what every English schoolboy knows so well, that silkworms thrive upon lettuce leaves, the ordinary substitute, in England, for the mulberry leaf. Botany, of course, would not suggest such a substitute. B. M. Souvenirs Roman 3, pp. 297-299. Souvenirs X, pp. 102-109. Souvenirs Roman 2, pp. 1-19. Ibid, p. 104. Souvenirs Roman 3, pp. 12-14. Souvenirs Roman 4, pp. 59-60. Darwin died at Down, in Kent, on the 19th of April, 1882. A. T. de M. Souvenirs Roman 2, p. 99. Souvenirs Roman 2, p. 160. He makes this declaration in respect of an error which he had incorrectly attributed to Erasmus Darwin, the grandfather of the famous Charles Darwin, on the faith of an unfaithful translation due to the entomologist Lacordaire. The mistake, which is really Lacordaire's, not Erasmus Darwin's, consisted in confusing the sphex with a common wasp. Charles Darwin, having informed Fabre that his grandfather had said a wasp, the French naturalist immediately inserted this correction in a note, in the second volume of the Souvenirs, which I had not yet come across when I cited the passage in question. I can therefore say with M. Fabre, may this note amend, within the proper limits, the assertions which I made in all good faith. Darwin died in 1882, and the second volume of the Souvenirs appeared in 1883. Souvenirs I, pp. 188-189, Roman 2, pp. 103, Roman 6, pp. 25 166-203, Roman 7, pp. 8, 9, 57, 161, etc. Souvenirs Roman 6, p. 70. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, chapter Roman 9, Dung Beetles of the Pampas. There is also mention of Brother Jujulian in a long note in volume V, p. 131, The Glowworm and Other Beetles, p. 238. Souvenirs Roman 9, pp. 184-186, The Life of the Fly, chapter Roman 13, Mathematical Memories, My Little Table. E. Perrier, Revue Hebdomadaire, October 22, 1910. Revue Scientifique, May 7, 1910. Our eminent compatriot will forgive the writer for quoting the following passage from a letter of his, which so fully expresses both his admiration for our hero and his profound affection for the land of our fathers. For the second time, on reading in the journal, Aveyron, your comprehensive and loving study of the life and work of your illustrious namesake, I was agreeably surprised to see that you compared our characters and our work. This comparison is extremely flattering to me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is indeed a somewhat curious thing that two Rowergats should have conceived the idea of celebrating the animals, that both should have been led by their destiny to Provence, that both should have had the course of their lives affected by the intervention of Durai, etc. It is true that one must not push these analogies too far. Durai merely advanced me from the normal college of Rodez to that of Cluny, and in so doing, alas, he uprooted me. As for the animals, what are the poetic fancies which I have dedicated to them beside the masterly essays of the man who has been called the Homer of the insects? M. Fabre does not dispute, any more than we ourselves, that Fabre's fame quite legitimately belongs to Provence, which has become his second country. He merely regrets that we in our loyal kingdom have too long allowed our good friends of the empire to monopolize him. Kerr's Élémentaire de Histoire Naturelle, Zoology, p1, 5th edition. Cours élémentaire d'astronomie, p. 272, 7th edition. Op. Cit. Avertissement aux avant-propos du directeur de la collection, couronné par l'Académie Française. Souvenirs II, p3. The Life of the Fly, Chapter I, The Harmas. Dedication of Volume II, of the Souvenirs. Souvenirs II, p4. The Life of the Fly, Chapter I, The Harmas. The cicada is the sigil, an insect akin to the grasshopper and found more particularly in the south of France. Cf. Social Life in the Insect World, Chaps. I. Roman 4, and The Life of the Grasshopper, Chaps. IV. A. T. de M. F. Margate, Revue des Deux Mondes, December 15, 1910. Ibid. F. Margate op. Cit. F. Margate op. Cit. Souvenirs Roman 4, p. 222. Fabre, Poet of Science, G. V. Legros, pp. 147, 149. F. Margate op. Cit. Fabre, Poet of Science, G. V. Legros, translated by Bernard Mile, pp. 159, 160. Souvenirs X, pp. 100, 101. Souvenirs Roman 6, p. 296. Souvenirs Roman 9, pp. 176, 178. The Mason Bees, Chapters I, The Jacobs. J. P. Lafitte, La Nature, March 26, 1910. Jean Acard, Eloge de F. Capet. Souvenirs X, p. 79. Souvenirs Roman 8, p. 346. The Life of the Spider, Chapter Roman 2, The Banded Epera. Souvenirs X, pp. 78-79. Souvenirs X, p. 92. Revue des Deux Mondes, Dec. 1910, p. 875. Souvenirs I, pp. 265, 314, v. p. 99, Roman 7, p. 48. Ibid. I. 171, 175. The Hunting Wasps, Chapter X, The Ignorance of Instinct. Souvenirs I, pp. 297, 298. The Mason Bees, Chapter Roman 2, Experiments. Souvenirs I, p. 165. The Hunting Wasps, Chapter X, The Ignorance of Instinct. Ibid. Roman 4, p. 238, v. p. 90. The Sacred Beetle and Others, Chapter Roman 7, The Broad-Necked Scarabaeus. Souvenirs Roman 2, p. 157. The Mason Bees, Chapter Roman 7, Reflections upon Insect Psychology. Ibid. Roman 6, pp. 116, 131, 148. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapter Roman 12. The Burying Beetles, Experiments. Also Wonders of Instinct, Chapter Roman 6. Souvenirs Roman 6, pp. 130, 143. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapter Roman 12. The Burying Beetles, Experiments. Souvenirs v. pp. 141, 142, 150. The Sacred Beetle and Others, Chapter Roman 16. The Lunary Copris. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapter Roman 11. The Burying Beetles. Souvenirs Roman 2, p. 159. The Mason Bees, Chapter Roman 7. Reflections upon Insect Psychology. Souvenirs Roman 6, 116. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapters I. The Burying Beetles. See also Wonders of Instinct, Chapter Roman 6. Souvenirs Roman 4, p. 238. Souvenirs Roman 2, p. 138, Roman 6, pp. 98, 117. Souvenirs I, p. 220. The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman 13, The Ammophila. Souvenirs v. p. 130. The Sacred Beetle and Others, Chapter Roman 16, The Lunary Copris. Souvenirs Roman 6, p. 97. The Glowworm and Other Beetles, Chapter X, Insect Coloring. Souvenirs Roman 7, p. 193. Souvenirs I, p. 220. The Hunting Wasps, Chapter Roman 13, The Ammophila. Souvenirs v. p. 322. The Life of the Grasshopper, Chapter Roman 8, The Mantis, The Nest. E. Tavernier. Souvenirs X, pp. 92, 214. Revue Hebdomadaire, October 22, 1910. La Nature, March 26, 1910. It will be to M. Fabre's lasting honor that he has never known any idleness of this kind, or, indeed, any kind of idleness. Souvenirs VI, p. 75. Fabre denies, by the light of the facts, almost all the ideas which evolution invokes to explain the formation of species. Revue des deux mondes, p. 891, he says, "The facts as I see them lead me away from Darwin's theories. Whenever I try to apply selection to the facts observed, it leaves me whirling in the void. It is majestic but sterile. Evolution asserts as regards the past, it asserts as regards the future, but it tells us as little as possible about the present. Of the three terms of duration, one only escapes it, and that is the very one which is free from the fantastic imaginings of hypothesis." Fabre appears to conceive a relation between instinct and the organ analogous to that which obtains between the soul and the body. For him, the first element of instinct is an incorporeal element which he does not otherwise define, which he characterizes merely as a native impulse, irresistible, infallible, and superior to the organism, as well as to the sensibility of the insect, although it is not separated from nor completely independent of these. For the rest, instinct remains a mystery. What it is at bottom, I do not know, I shall never know, it is an inviolable secret. Like all true scientists, Fabre recognized the narrow limits of human knowledge and did not fear to admit them. According to him, neither life nor instinct results from matter. We must seek for an explanation not below but above it, and of all the marvels created that compel us to look upward and proclaim the supreme intelligence whence they are derived, this is one of the most striking and persuasive. The more I see, the more I observe, the more this intelligence shines forth behind the mystery of things. Fabre thus joins hands with Pasteur, and may fitly be mentioned in the same breath with him, as one of the most distinguished defenders of spiritual science and belief against materialistic science and atheism. This is all the more remarkable in that Fabre has never attempted to make any apologia, but simply stated whither all his observations and reflections tended. Quoted from Mgr. Mignot, Letters sur les études ecclésiastiques, p. 248. Souvenirs III, p. 91. Session of the 8th December 1910. This chapter was written by the Abbé Fabre especially for the English edition. B.M. This was the pilgrimage of the young girls of the Université des Annales Politiques et Littéraires. The French words are cousins, cousins, cousin equals cousin, good friend, crony, B.M. Jules Clairady, Jean Richepin, Adolphe Brisson, etc. E. Lavis quoted by Dr. Legros op. Cit. p. 81. M. L'Abbé Germain, ex-curé of Sérignan. François Fabier. In Provence, as in Italy, the plaster statues sold by itinerant Italians are known as Santi Belli equals beautiful saints. B.M. The text is from Ecclesiastes, I2. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. But Fabre cites it according to the Discours contre Eutrope, in which he had learnt it at school, alluding to the appropriate reflection of Saint John Chrysostom. Letter 1F00, epsilon letter 1F76 rho epsilon u, rho alpha lambda iota sigma tau alpha, sigma epsilon u pi nu epsilon, letter 1F20 chi alpha iota rho omicron u, epsilon letter 1F30, pi epsilon letter 1F d6 nu, mu alpha tau alpha iota omicron tau eta sigma, etc. Semper quidem, nunc viro maxime opportunum est dicer. Vanitas, etc. Psalm 100, verse 3. Franco's Capet. Dr. Legros, Les Annales Politiques et Littéraires, April 12, 1914. The Abbé Joseph Betten and his friend, the Abbé Juillet. J. H. Fabre, cited by Dr. Legros. Elegt, Annales Politiques et Littéraires, April 6, 1914.